everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to the grand final of this year's Civil Service Challenge 2010. This year we took 4 teams of civil servants and we spread them out across the UK and we gave them a fantastic challenge. To tell you a little bit more about the challenge, I'm delighted to welcome onto stage the Cabinet Secretary and Head of the UK Civil Service, Sir Gus O'Donnell. Come and have a seat here, Gus.
Thank you.
So, Gus, can you tell us a little bit, what was the challenge this year?
This year we decided to give each of the teams the task of setting up a festival of sport, a kind of mini Olympics. And my requirement was basically they should do it with pride, pace, passion and professionalism.
But to set up a mini Olympics, that's going to take some time. So how long did they have to do this challenge?
Well, we thought about doing it till 2012, but curiously enough, that might not have worked. And so we said 2 weeks.
2 weeks to set up a mini Olympics. And did they have any money to do it? How did they do this?
2 weeks for pace. Money, as you know, we are in times of austerity. We do not use taxpayers' money. But we're very pleased that Visa, through the government procurement card, made available to each team £500.
Fantastic. So that's a little bit about the challenge. You're going to hear much more of that and see how it went in a moment. But I think the first thing we should do is actually meet our teams. So a big round of applause for our teams, please. First up, in Sheffield, team leader Ashwin Bolar, Dave Scott, Lois Cushing and Anna Davies. That's Team Sheffield. In London, team leader Laura Frascona, Vikas Agarwal, Amanda Tucker and Steve Paul. That's London. In Birmingham, team leader Jill Brookshaw, Emmanuel Firestein, Laura Youngson and Liam Clark. That's Team Birmingham. And finally, all the way up there in Glasgow, team leader Richard Littlewood, Carolyn Bamber, Adrian Bartlett and Mina Parr. Okay, there's our teams. We're going to hear more from them in a moment, but let's just get a very quick feel of how the teams thought they did. So let's start with Glasgow. Where's Team Glasgow? Have a quick word there. How do you think you did?
I think we did really well. We got the most people through the doors. We got lots of pledges, got lots of donations and people taking part, and we had a great deal of fun. Okay, so they're pretty confident there. Let's hear from Team London. London, do you think you did better than Glasgow?
Of course we did. I think although we got slightly less pledges, we weren't forcing people to sign them. So I think we maybe got more people through the doors.
Okay.
We had lots of sports, lots of stands and lots of special guests.
So something about the values there, the way you approached it. So let's hear from Sheffield. Sheffield, how do you think you did?
Well, I think we did pretty well as well. Surprisingly enough, we put together a really varied, diverse show. Lots of different sports, lots of sports that not many other people would have really thought about doing for the first time. We as well managed to get all of the activity leaders, all of the sports, to actually pledge to come and do the same kind of community sports event again the year after. We got, for the people that kind of came to the event, we got loads of sign-ups.
Great. Yeah. Let's move on. Fantastic. Lots to say from Sheffield. So Birmingham, lots of creativity from Sheffield. How do you think you did there?
We did great in Birmingham. We used innovations such as Facebook to get our advert out there, which brought people through. We've got the fire brigade involved, the police to work in the local community, and the legacy we've left behind. We've actually got 2 spin-off events, one in Dundee and one in Loughborough.
Fantastic. So that all sounds really, really good. But obviously, the teams would say that they've done well. What we've been doing for this week, we've actually had the film playing of how they did, and we've been asking civil servants to vote online, and we've been going around and getting some vox pops from them. So not only will you hear from the teams, but let's have a look at what some civil servants who've been here this week have been saying about how well these teams have done.
I think probably either Sheffield or Glasgow.
I think Glasgow should win because they seem to put in the most effort.
Sheffield should win. They were so unlucky with the weather, but we're really into the community-based aspect of it.
I think Glasgow should win. I think they did a really good job in really quite challenging, area, a place to live. They got loads of people involved in sport.
Okay, well that doesn't help us at all, because obviously people had lots of different thoughts about who should win. There's going to be a bit of a twist today. What we're actually going to do is we're actually going to decide in a moment who the top 2 teams were. So we're going to look at those online voting and how that's gone. And we're actually going to eliminate in a minute the teams that had the least votes. And then we're going to be bringing up the 2 top teams up here for the final part of today's session, and they will be judged. But it's not just Gus alone who's going to do the judging, because that wouldn't be quite right, Gus. I think you need a bit of help here. So I'm going to actually introduce now a very special panel. There's some real friends of ours for Civil Service Live, so please give a very warm welcome to, I don't think the first person needs much introduction. He's incredibly tall. He's been a very good friend of Civil Service Live for the last 3 years. A big warm welcome, please, for Peter Jones from Dragon's Den. Hello, Peter. And joining Peter on the panel, really, really good friends of ours as well, the biggest sponsors for Civil Service Live and the big sponsor for this challenge. Please welcome Johnny Holden from Visa. And to add a bit of female glamour and get the gender balance right on this panel, make sure we get some proper decisions here, please put your hands together for Jill Ryder, Head of Leadership for the Civil Service from the Cabinet Office. So let's hear a bit from the panel. I'm interested in, when you're going to be judging this in a moment, you're going to see how they did, and then you're going to make your views. What is it you're going to be looking for as a panel member? Peter.
Well, firstly, hello everybody. I'm going to be looking for how they interacted, how they communicated together, how they used teamwork abilities. So I'm really keen to know how it all gelled together.
Fantastic. And communication, that's something you've pushed us on over the years, so let's see if they've been listening to you on that. That's great. And Johnny?
I'm interested in how they spent the money. Transparency is a key thing. You know, how did they spend our money, and was it wisely, and, you know, what's the legacy from that, or is it just gone?
Fantastic. And using the card, you've been able to track how they spent that throughout this process?
All the transactions, as Gus has been keeping track as well.
I have.
Fantastic. Jill, what are you looking for?
Oh, well, there's a number of people in this room that came to my session earlier, so the answer to them is obvious, isn't it? Leadership. And what I talked to people about earlier, and we got into lots of conversations about leadership and values, and how you actually use some really simple things in your everyday work to deliver the outcomes you want. And of course, in today's world, I'm looking for value for money as well.
Okay, so that's given you a feel for how this panel are going to be judging our 2 top teams later. And as I said, they are going to have a chance to interrogate the 2 teams in a minute. But let's refresh our memories. Let's actually see how these teams performed in this challenge. So sit back for a few minutes. Let's go back to the weekend when it all happened. It was on Saturday the 29th of May. Let's have a look and see exactly how they did.
This year's challenge is a one-day festival of sport. So I want you to make it as good as the Olympics in terms of pride, passion, pace and professionalism. So ditch your briefcase, swap your business suit for a tracksuit, get out there because it's literally a race against the clock.
2 weeks have passed since Sir Gus's announcement. The teams arrive at their challenge locations, and only now are they meeting for the first time.
Let's just kind of go over like what we've been doing for the past 2 weeks.
So yeah, I've got a few exciting things to show you guys.
Working with a small budget of £500, provided by sponsors Visa, the teams have spent the last fortnight planning their events.
What sports have we got?
Hockey. Our publicity is getting out there, but we could do another big push tomorrow.
To pull in the crowds, the teams had to plan the best way to advertise their events.
So I was thinking these are the ones we could hand out on the street.
What's going on with the Radio Sheffield interview then?
Yeah, I need at least one or all of you, but the thing is that it is 7:30 in the morning when they're recording.
Saturday morning, just one day before the teams must launch their spectacular sporting events.
We are just about to head to BBC Radio Sheffield.
In London, Laura and Vickers decide their advertising campaign also needs a radio slot. They bring in the big gun.
Hi, yes, I was wondering if you could help me. We're trying to get through to Sir Gus O'Donnell's personal assistant or press secretary.
In Glasgow, Adrian and Carolyn are using personal persuasion to publicise their event.
Like football, rugby, table tennis.
10 till 4. Persuade any of your friends to come.
Meanwhile, in Birmingham, the team concentrate their efforts in the office.
I'm wondering whether you can help us any further today.
In Sheffield, the team have taken their advertising campaign to the streets, but they're battling the weather.
Obviously, we wanted to go out and attract attention, promote the event, and Sheffield City Centre was quite quiet.
There's a final push to get people along to the day.
It's a mini Olympics. There's lots of fun events and there's prizes.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you.
You might be off duty tomorrow. Okay, great. So we'll expect to see you there. Thank you.
It's the big day. It's 10 a.m. and time to let the crowds in.
It's family fun. Come and join us.
Martial arts?
Come running down the track. Come on, folks. Join us.
In London, the opening ceremony has begun.
We've got some family events. We've got a relay. We've got a ball and spoon relay.
In Birmingham, they start with a warm-up and even have a ceremonial flame. In Sheffield, though the sun is out, the crowds are not.
We're open now. It's 10:30. We haven't had any people drive in yet.
Come on, Lewis, let's go. We're just going to go up onto the streets of Sheffield yet again with our megaphone, trusty megaphone, try and drum up people to get... We're just going to basically drag people.
It's 12 noon and the events are well underway.
It sounds like it really hurts.
We've got some pledges, yay!
Part of the challenge is to get pledges of fitness from the public.
My pledges card is getting fuller by the day.
Hello, can I just ask you, have you two registered in?
It's nearly 4 p.m. and the events are drawing to a close.
So it's been a fantastic day. We're just about to wrap up now with our closing remarks and a raffle.
We would like to give the Taylor family a meal for 4.
Okay, this is for the brand new Nintendo Wii.
Martin Sharp.
Last but not least, all of you, thank you for coming. You made it a great day. Bye-bye.
I'm just pleased that I was part of this. You know, I would recommend it to anyone. I think it's an experience that people should definitely take on board.
Great, I think they deserve a bit of a round of applause for that. I mean, it looks to me like they all did a really, really fantastic job with a really difficult challenge, especially some of the rain and the weather and everything you had to fight there. As I said, though, for this first part, civil servants have been voting online, and they've been using several things to judge who they think should win this year's challenge. Some of those things are, they looked at the number of pledges that the teams managed to get, they looked at how many people they managed to get along to the events, how they spent their budgets, but also as civil servants, just the general way they approached this and the values and the teamwork that they displayed while they were doing those. I've just been handed here the results of the online judging. So, let's go straight back to the voice of the weakest link for a summary of how well these teams did before I reveal who the top teams are.
The teams were tasked with collecting pledges of fitness from the people who attended their events. So how did they do? The Glasgow team had a strong turnout and collected the most pledges with a total of 170. The London team also had a good attendance, and they secured 159 pledges. In Sheffield, the team had the lowest turnout, and they collected 60 pledges. And in Birmingham, despite a good attendance, the team persuaded only 35 people to make a pledge of fitness. The Civil Service Challenge teams inspired over 400 people to take up more exercise. So who do you think should win?
Okay, so that's really fantastic. Over 400 pledges. Let's see how that all was reflected in the online voting. I can now reveal that the two teams going through head-to-head to the final are Team London and Team Glasgow. So could those two teams please come up to stage, please? Come up here, take seats up here. Gus, I think you'll agree that all the teams did a fantastic job. So would you like to say a few words?
I'd just like to say a few words to Birmingham and Sheffield, because there were a lot of people that applied to do this in the first place, and you got through an enormous number of people to actually make it into the team. So I think, kind of, if you take the World Cup analogy, you are the losing semi-finalists. You're the Uruguay and Ghana, if you like. You know, I feel for you, and I just hope that you'll give it another go sometime, and just to commend you on all you did, because I thought it was an incredibly difficult challenge. We really didn't make life easy for you, and the rain didn't help one of you either.
And I think they deserve a round of applause just for putting themselves into this. So, I'm going to have to start moving around. I want to get a very quick reaction here. Team London over here, how do you feel about being here, and why do you think you're going to win?
Overjoyed to be up here on the podium.
It's just a fantastic feeling. Just the nervousness for the first round. Just can't predict what's going to happen.
Great. Let me run over here to Glasgow and see how they're feeling about it all. How are you feeling to be here?
Very nervous, but very happy.
And why do you think you should win?
On the numbers alone, we did the best, but it's not just about numbers. It's about team spirit, team attitude, and I think we had that.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this is your opportunity now. It's the panel that are going to decide. You've now got to prove to this panel which one of you should win. So I'm going to ask, the panel have seen what you've done. They've chosen a few clips that they think you were really good at. But first of all, I'm going to ask Jill. Jill, if you had one question to put to each of these teams, what would that be?
Okay, well, it was really interesting watching you in action and seeing what you all did. And what I'd really like you to answer is, you came together as strangers, and how did you work as a team and agree priorities so that you made sure you were focused on the outcomes and focused on value for money? Okay,
who do you want to put that question to first, Jill?
Oh, well, they're consulting down at end, so we'll have them first.
Okay, Team London, who wants to answer that question?
Well, I think we came together, obviously, on the final weekend, but we'd been talking and corresponding and chatting for the 2 weeks in advance of that. I mean, I was the first one to get the email. I called all these guys up, introduced myself, said, this is the challenge we're doing. We then we had some brainstorming. We then identified together as a team. It was Amanda that said I might make sense to be the team leader, so I was happy to take that role on. We then also looked at the kind of main jobs falling out. There was obviously something around securing the sports, something about securing the special guests, and also something about the pledges and the stands. So we split those roles up, and it worked really well.
What do you think about that, Jill?
Well, I think it's good. I mean, how did you decide to go for your superstars that you sort of got involved? The call to Gus, where did that idea come from?
That was a long, hard thought, actually. We were thinking about it was Sir Gus's project. It's his baby. So why shouldn't he be involved in it? He's not just there to kind of run it. He should be the one that should have a say in it. Try and get people aware about it. He's actually well known in the community. So why shouldn't he be a voice for it?
I like upward delegation. I've always liked upward delegation. Good.
Fantastic. Shall we ask the same question to Team Glasgow then? Who wants to answer this one?
I'll answer it. I've got the microphone. The key thing for us was getting to know each other first before we really started planning out who was going to do what. It was full and frank discussion with each other, get to know our skills, what areas people are confident in working, and then from there we would start to work out who would do what tasks. So it was essentially becoming friendly with each other first, rather than diving straight in and who's going to do this, who's going to do that.
Yeah.
And that worked really well, because after a few short conversations we had a good idea where our strengths lay and who could take things forward most effectively.
So you're really working out what your capabilities were and then playing to each other's strengths.
Yeah, a little bit of planning first stood us in really good stead there.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, I think they're both starting to fight their corners quite well here. You've still got 3 other panel members to convince, though, so let's go. He's not always the friendliest of people. Let's go to Peter in the middle there. What question would you like to ask the 2 teams, Peter?
Well, just before I ask the question, I don't know whether everybody noticed on that video, it hit me like a brick to the head. But when Sir Gus was out there giving his instructions, the sort of very apprentice-like, I don't know whether you all had the same feeling as me. I was sitting there that he actually is a far better looking version of Alan Sugar, and if there's anyone in the BBC out there, I think that we could have, forget Lord Sugar, let's have Sir Gus, don't you reckon, for The Apprentice? I'm interested in actually the fact that you got each £500 to spend, and I'm hearing a rumour that you didn't spend it all, and I just want to check, is that true?
Can you hear me? Oh, now you can. I'm a project manager, and through grouping together, we identified the strengths, and any project managing capability, you basically identify and prioritise, but also managing the finances to make sure that we were able to sufficiently account for what to not know about the day, because you kept on throwing extra
And how much did you spend at the 500?
We were close to it, but we also had to pay out for taxes, so I understand there was
That's
some
not an
sort
answer.
of adjustments.
How much did you spend out of the 500?
I believe it was 490 odd, but the taxi adjustments, because we had to pay for taxis rather than using your own cars, so they did make an adjustment.
Okay, and the same question to Glasgow.
Oh, sorry. We spent £252.
That was me, because I'm really annoyed that you didn't spend all the money.
Hard to believe. We discovered through our preparations that Richard was talking about that Carolyn here is the queen of the blag, and she managed to blag hundreds and hundreds of pounds worth of donations. So our spend was very limited to the essentials that we couldn't quite blag. You know, Tesco's gave us a game of Twister, but they couldn't feed all our volunteers, and you know, we managed to keep spend to a minimum through that.
And was that one of the things that Visa said to you? Would you please not spend all the money? Or did they say, here's £500, spend it and get as many people there as possible?
I didn't have direct communication with Visa, but I was told that we'd be judged on how we spent the money, so I thought less is more.
What would you have done? What would you have done differently, Peter? Would you have spent a bit more?
If it was Visa's money, yeah, I'd spent the lot. and I would have got more people there by spending the lot. So I think you did very well by spending more.
Yes, in our defence, it wasn't public funds, it was Visa and we promoted the GPC card, the use of the GPC card, even if it was for coffee. You know, I was using that card.
Seriously, my wife has the same issue with Visa.
And tell me all about the coffee.
It was very nice coffee. It was coffee on the go, and it was late morning, and it was the quickest refreshment.
And it was my idea.
I think Glasgow wanted to come in.
Just going to add to that, you know, we hit on the private finance as well. We actually went into McDonald's, you know, maybe the enemy of healthy living, but we thought you can't tackle this behemoth and try and ostracise them. We went in, told them what we wanted to do, and we managed to get some no added sugar squash from them. Gave them a little bit of publicity in the video, which obviously didn't get through, understandably, I suppose. But they supplied a lot of the drinks. We got Fitness First down there, who provided rowing machines, spinning machines for people to try, and they gave free gym memberships. You know, so we didn't just want to spend the money for the sake of it. We kind of had it covered.
Was that gym or gin?
Gym.
Okay, so surely getting things for free can't be bad. That's not bad. But Peter, there were a couple of other things you were specifically impressed with, and I know you've chosen a few clips. Should we look at something that Glasgow did that particularly caught your attention?
Absolutely.
Can we do that?
It's free Olympics at the Grange Academy tomorrow.
In Glasgow, Adrian and Carolyn are using personal persuasion to publicise their event.
Like football, rugby, table tennis.
10 till 4. Persuade any of your friends to come?
Judo player. I've got a Wii Sports.
I'm worried we're going to run out of flyers. It's going pretty well, I think.
Yeah, that'd be good if we did run out of flyers. We haven't yet.
What was it you liked about that, Peter?
I haven't got a clue. Did I see that clip before?
I think what you said to me, you like the fact that they actually pounded the streets a bit.
No, what I actually liked about that was actually the fact that it was about face-to-face communication. You actually were very direct, and you went out and you walked the streets, you talked to the people, and I think that's really important. We all know, especially in business, it's the relationships that are key. And actually, if you go to people and have a direct response, you're going to get a direct result. So for me, it was actually taking action and doing something about it that I really liked.
I think what we also did is we actually had some
the radio, so we'd covered that. We had something in the papers, so it was then, let's go face to face. So we did make that judgment call. And you actually saw some of the people who we'd actually seen in the streets actually came to the event, and that was great.
You're overselling it now. I was giving you a really good compliment there.
Sorry about that. I'll go.
And the other thing, because we have referred to it already, so I'm not sure we need to see the clip again, but you like the fact that they'd managed to get Sir Gus to do the interview.
I was quite impressed because actually I thought, I mean, I find it difficult enough to get through to Sir Gus with all the things he's got going on, and I was very impressed that they took the action to go to get the lead man, and I think it was it showed real tenacity. Was that you?
London.
Well, it lived up to the name. It was indeed a challenge, but we managed it in the end. And I think also, I mean, we took along a suitcase of flyers, and we were flyering really, really locally in the Coshilton area, just on the night door, stopping people, taking them away from their tea and saying, "Listen to us talking about a fantastic event."
Wasn't it?
It was.
You should be talking.
It was a bit of a challenge to get through the kind of filters to the office, but he was kind enough to do it. He phoned me back and caught me off guard. I was sitting in our office, picked up the phone. He introduced himself, and I just started shaking or flapping or and it was so good of him to do it, like to take the time, especially that weekend with everything that had been going on, to spare his own free time to actually speak to us was.
Do you know what, in a total unfalse way, I think everybody knows this, in a total unfalse way, I think that just sums up Sir Gus, though, because I know behind the scenes he does do that. Now, it doesn't mean that all of you, please don't email him and try and call him, but I know that he does take things very personally.
I think you should email Peter. You can't turn the television on without seeing him now, so,
If anybody here wants Peter or Gus's phone number afterwards, I'm quite happy to give it to all of you. Okay. All right, let's move on. Johnny, one question for each of the teams. What would you like to ask them?
Right, I think it's still about money and value for money. Now, what is the one thing that you spent money on or blagged, which is going to deliver the most value going forwards, or has it all just been spent and gone? Steve?
Probably. Are we allowed two? If it was one, I would say one of the prizes that we had that someone won and took away at the end of the day for actually taking part in a sport, and as they took part in the sport, they entered a draw to win this, was a mountain bike. And the winner of that, young girl, she had a grin from ear to ear at the end of the day. Unfortunately, her little brother he wasn't happy at all, but that's something that she will take away and hopefully ride for years and years and years, and that's got a really positive effect. If we're allowed to sneak another one in, we were giving away a bag full of footballs to lots of the children who were there as well, just something that gets them out in the street, playing football, running around, and hopefully getting fitter from it.
Good. No, that's what we're looking for. And London?
I think the main purchase that was valued and used the most was the trophies and the badges that we awarded the ball and spoon with the trophy, and that was very valued, and the children loved their little medals, which were quite an award ceremony at the end of the day. So the children really valued that and enjoyed receiving them.
Did you want the second one?
Sorry?
Did you want the second one? Did you have a second one?
A second preference. What we also did is we supported some of the clubs. A couple of the clubs asked for a bit of financial support. They came and volunteered. We had archery, and it was bringing them away from other events and activities, because Robin Hood, I don't know if anyone's seen the film, but it's really become a very popular sport because of that. And they were basically sort of, could you help fund so that they could afford to bring their equipment and a couple of qualified trainers to run the event.
Do you feel you're going to get some more value from them? Do they say what they were going to spend the money on?
They've had people sign up since. We went to the to the clubs, right, and basically asked for their feedback. And it was very nice to hear that some of them have had people join their clubs, the archers specifically.
So just to add to that, one thing that we got from them was that with the money that we'd given them, they were able to actually invest in more equipment, especially for for people with disabilities that, you know, they have different needs. For example, the bows, you can't use the same, and they have different targets, and that all costs money. And so by giving them the money, they can actually kind of increase their appeal. And I think that's what kind of touched us most about that.
Right, it's good to hear that, because I've been looking at the individual transactions and I've seen them going to the archery or going one way or another, and it's nice to see full transparency of where that money's going. And that's why we put it on a GPC Visa card, so we could track it. It was Visa money, so it was our money, and it was there to be spent in a creative fashion. So we wanted you to spend that money, but at the same time, it was important that we could track and see what you were spending the money on.
Can I just say, Johnny, obviously how you spent your money was quite a big part of this challenge, and it's something that we're all really focused on at the moment. So maybe it is worth us just having a look, actually, a couple of clips. So one, should we take a look at something that you picked out from London? Should we go with a clip from London and see how they went about this?
Here we go. Right, store guide.
Leaving all the promotion to Laura and Vickers, other team members, Amanda and Steve, go shopping for the big day.
Raffle tickets.
Was it the raffle tickets you particularly liked there? What was it you liked, Johnny?
Well, no, this is about sport, it's about health, and I just like to see, you know, what is being bought, and that's a real something that can be recycled and used and deliver some health, so that's good.
So it's the fact that they could reuse some of that stuff.
It was sports goods, and it's got a life. It's got some value for someone else as well,
Okay.
so it's ongoing.
Well, let's compare that to what Glasgow chose to spend some of their money on. Let's have a look at a clip from Glasgow.
Load us up. The teams have been tasked with bringing a wow factor to their events. In Glasgow, Carolyn has fine-tuned her blagging skills to secure lots of free prizes, which she hopes will attract the crowds.
This was my first blag or donation. Blag just sounds a bit naff. One person virtually gave us the money for 90% of that.
Wow. That's a lot of blag in that.
It's not really about how they spent their money, is it? It's about what they got for free.
No, and I think as we go forwards, you're not always going to be able to blag and get things for free. And this is why it's so important that we're careful how we spend the money. The money was there to be spent, so it's always important when you have the opportunity to use your budget, but to use it wisely and get more for less. So, well done.
Okay, fantastic. I'm going to go to the last panel member for this. Gus, these are your civil servants sat here. So what is the one thing you would like to ask both of these teams?
I'm kind of tempted to say, you know, can you get aircraft carriers and a few jets? Bit of a problem. No, for me, one of the questions is innovation, risk-taking. That's what we wanted. And give me what you think of as your best example of risk-taking.
Our best example was the work that Carolyn did, I think, in the amount of donations, of equipment, of resources that she was able to get hold of. She took the risk of walking into shops, contacting companies, and led by example for the rest of us in terms of just walking in saying, hello, I'm involved in this event, it's going to be really good, would you be interested in supporting us? And it does take a lot of guts to walk in off the street into a shop, walk up to somebody you've never met before and say, please support us. For an event you've never heard of, but you will in the next few days. And she did amazingly well on that.
Just wanted to add one more example to that. When we were given the standard pledge sheet, you know, we'd long ago thought of some kind of longevity for this event. And when we looked at what we were presented, we just thought that doesn't really cut the mustard. So taking a risk, we decided to not focus all our energy on going around, I think I said in the film, with a clipboard, trying to get people to do 20 more sit-ups a day or whatever. So by getting everyone to register at the entrance to the event with the incentive of joining a prize draw, we even gave them a tick box opt-out, so we weren't forcing people, just as we were accused of earlier. And we then also promised to pass on all those contact details to the local clubs who turned up on the day, which we've done, so they can then chase the people who were there on the day. It's sort of devolving that responsibility so it can continue without our interference.
Okay. How about you? Risk-taking.
I've actually got a couple of examples. I think the first was our opening ceremony. We'd invested a fair bit of money in kind of having an opening ceremony, and the risk was not having enough people to turn up at the time. So you can't really open a ceremony if it's just us. So we actually worked quite well on that. So we were very flexible in our timings. We were able to move things back until we had a big enough crowd. And in doing so, we actually had a really nice opening ceremony with a balloon releasing. And we got lots of feedback on it and said it looked really nice, it went really well. The Sports Centre said it was a really nice touch. I think the second one was actually the risk that we had Eugene Gilks turn up, who's a bronze medal decathlete from the Commonwealth Games. And I think the risk we had was wasting his time. We had him down and he was fantastic. He set up a stall, talked to people about sports and fitness and what he did. But what his purpose was to inspire families to be fitter. And the risk was that families wouldn't turn up, they'd send their kids along, or they wouldn't get involved. But actually, by the end of the day, we had so many families joining in, doing star jumps and catching skills and throwing, and it was so good to see that what he was doing was worthwhile. He wasn't just there as a sports instructor, but as a family fitness instructor.
Good to see you're getting that appetite for risk, both of you. I've always thought my appetite for risk is sitting next to Peter Jones on a panel, actually.
I guess you said before, yeah, sure, Peter.
Can I just ask, because my mic on, is it? One of my thoughts were, what's the thing that you regret not doing, both of you? There must be something that you've learned from the experience that actually you think if you had the chance to do it again, what would you do differently? What do you regret not doing, and why?
I think we could have been a little bit smarter with our venue at times. We expected a smaller venue than we got in the end. We got there and it was very, very big. And we tried to fill as much space as possible, but with hindsight, we could have compacted it a little better, improved people's experience moving from one area to another. But that's a small thing. Perhaps we still think the event, people still circulated quite happily, but we could have been a little bit smarter. Yeah, as the event went on, we started to learn, right, we need to actually, how can we work to direct the flow of people? How can we move things around? So it wasn't just we are staying this course. Okay. Absolutely, it's how do we modify things as we go?
I think our biggest regret actually was we were kind of offered a lot of advertising and media at the beginning of the 2 weeks, but I think it would have been a lot better if we'd taken a much greater role. We approached radio and newspapers and such, but I think we should have been more proactive in actually increasing the awareness. And I think one issue was that a lot of events like these have months of preparation and months of advertising, but for the 2 weeks, I think we needed to get in straight away on the first day and say, look, we're going to be doing this in 2 weeks' time. Can you push it as much as you can?
And I think also, in addition to that, our biggest regret is that we're not doing this next year. To be honest, we had so many people who were desperate to be involved, but said, our club's got an away day, or our club's got this, or it's got this, and we can't be there. We got 13 sports along, but we could have had so much more, and it was really upsetting to see the club saying, we'd love to do this in the future, to see the people in the local community saying, please put something on again like this next year, and for us to say, well, it's not really our place in the community, and what we were doing was passing them on to the centre, because I know that the leisure centre there do some of these activities, but I think that was probably our biggest regret, seeing the kind of the interest and the generated and the real passion, and not being able to kind of say, well, and we're doing another event, having to pass that on, because it was lovely. It was lovely, lovely, lovely passion there.
Okay, I mean, the only thing I'd say is next time, just ring Duncan Bannatyne, because he's desperate for people to go into his gyms. He would have given free membership to you all.
Okay, well, in a moment, the panel is going to fall to you to decide which of these two teams is going to win this year's challenge. Before we do that, do any of you have any final questions to put to these two teams? I've got one, which is, I understand you roped in some volunteers to come and help. How did that work? How did that go?
I contacted a lot of local areas to see what volunteers I could muster, Prince's Trust, the Army, all different types of people, and got lots of volunteers who work in the local community to come along and give their time for nothing. So, and that helped because they had connections and they knew their own sports and things like that. So yeah, it was, we got the council involved and they cut with volunteers, and so yeah, it was worth
Great.
doing.
London, did you think of getting any volunteers involved in your event?
We definitely did think of getting volunteers involved, but I think the centre that we were working with were very keen to use only their own staff for reasons of health and safety, training and the like. So although we did have a couple of volunteering stands, one a local volunteering and then Volunteering England, there promoting the importance of volunteering in sport, we didn't actually have any people helping out kind of logistically, just because of that preference of the centre.
Can I just want to say that we had to make sure that every single volunteer had gone through all the relevant checks, and it had to be a Scottish check. It couldn't be an English check.
No.
So
completely. No. Sorry, I just meant it was training specific to the centre that they wanted them to go through.
I'm quite impressed though in London, because surely the same afternoon the football was on, wasn't it? So that must have had an impact on your figures. And in Scotland, I doubt nobody minded about the football at all, did they? So you have to take that into account, panel, as well, when you're making your final decision. There was a World Cup element to this as well.
And they were in a foreign land, though.
They were. Has anybody in the audience got any questions that they want to put to the teams before the panel deliberate on this? No, they're all waiting.
There's a guy. There's someone brave who's prepared to ask a question. Come on. We need your input here.
In view of Visa only having to give £252 to Glasgow, would Visa now donate the remaining balance, please?
I'd written that down too.
Did you? If I can see the value from that donation, then let's talk.
You're definitely not allowed to spend it on coffee, that's for sure. Has anybody else got any questions? Yeah, there's somebody down here.
Did any of the teams involve the Civil Service Sports Council in any way, a national organisation for civil servants promoting sports and social activities?
Great, a fantastic plug for the Sports Council there.
Yes, I did actually contact them. In Scotland, in Glasgow, that day, they actually were in Glasgow themselves, so they couldn't actually help with us in Kilmarnock. That's where we were based. But Hasra, which the majority of you may know, they actually donated lots of prizes. I contacted our London rep, and they gave like stress balls. We've got pens, loads of freebies from them. So they did help a lot.
What about London?
Yes, yeah, I'm a member of the Civil Service Sports Council. I contacted my local rep, but I come from Portstone West in Portsmouth, so he referred me to the local area. Unfortunately, no one was able to attend or give freebies, but I got lots of supporting information that we actually, pamphlets and what have you, that I gave out on the day.
What about going to any big companies? In Glasgow, there's lots of privately owned businesses, very large companies, same in London. Which companies did you guys approach?
Well, we did approach McDonald's, Fitness First, and there was a large leisure centre in the centre of Kilmarnock. Thought it would be nuts to ignore that, and they were happy to advertise our event all over their centre. JJ, Diabetes UK, yeah.
I contacted the local diabetes group. I had to contact the London one, and they put me through to the Scotland one. And they invited their volunteers to the Scotland one. They actually had a stand. They had leaflets, and their volunteers came and they talked to our staff. We also had when we contacted the council, there's something called a chip van, and it's actually one of their health services, like a healthy van, and they came as well that day.
What about private companies?
Oh,
big companies.
I contacted so many private companies.
And they weren't interested?
Unfortunately, it had to be they weren't interested if it wasn't in their geographic area, and Kilmarnock was outside of that geographical area. So we contacted lots of companies in Kilmarnock, Holland and Barrett, Boots, McDonald's, so lots of local companies, but the companies even where I live wouldn't donate, wouldn't do anything because it wasn't there.
McDonald's is an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yes,
yeah.
We didn't think we'd get anything. So
no,
yeah,
you can see them sponsoring it now.
Yeah, we got lots of things from around the Scotland area, not just specific Kilmarnock.
Did you? Any companies you talked to?
Yes, we approached JJB Sports, and they were kind enough to donate some prizes. We looked at some other private sector companies, for example, Nike. We approached them for some kind of sports kits.
What did
used to
JJB
do.
Sports say?
They donated a football.
One football?
One football, yeah. They were...
What about the banks? Come on, I mean, with a lot of people in this audience who've been saying about, hey, why are we suffering because of the things that banks did to us? Did they come up with lots of goodies? You know, a small fraction of their bonuses could possibly have been reallocated?
Never a chance of that happening, really. So. No, but beyond the private companies, we looked at a lot of the large charitable companies. So Change for Life, we got them involved, NSPCC, they sent down some media and donation boxes, Kids Task Force, Sport England, Volunteer England.
Yeah, no, I just find it interesting. You went more the volunteering work as opposed to companies that are making very large profits, making huge amounts of money, actually have got money to give. Interesting, you went to the people actually the most needy, actually need more money, but doing great things already. Why did you do that?
I think the outlook that we had was that we're trying to get people, these stands there, to donate and to sign up. So volunteering schemes, they come down and advertise, and whilst for the whole crowd that were there, they had the chance to actually pledge to help out with them and to donate, for example, to NSPCC and to go through Change for Life kind of menus and routines, that kind of thing, just to create their awareness for the community about how to lead a fitter life, rather than just trying to kind of grab money from companies. It doesn't really leave a lasting impression on people if you change their opinions.
Yeah, what I was more coming from, I was thinking, my question actually wasn't taking money. What it was using large companies to communicate the fact that you want people to come to this event. So, for example, I'm asking Barclays, I don't want any money from you, but what I would like you to do is email 7,500 people because we're holding this event. That's my thought process about going to 10 companies with 40,000 people. You've only got to have a very tiny percentage of those people that actually turn up.
One thing we did actually was, what I did before we started the competition was I went to a local retail park. So there's Halfords, JJB's, Boots, Next, and they were all very hesitant to allow us to advertise in their stores because they had kind of procedures for not doing so. You know, you had to go through corporate to actually.
Okay, I think
we're going to move on.
Yeah, we're going to have to move on there. I'm sorry, you've spoken a lot this evening. We're going to have to move on. I'm going to give this panel now. Both teams have fought their corner really well, I think. You've given us some really great examples of how you approach this and what you've done. The panel are going to have all of now 1 minute to confer with all the evidence you've got now. So please confer, go into a huddle there on stage. While the panel do that, let's just have a look at some of the people that this event has touched. This really has made a difference to quite a lot of people. So let's have a look at that now.
Today I'm going to be involving myself in various amount of sports and trying to go and basically inspire the youngsters into finding a way to get themselves into a new sport, try and hopefully make themselves, you know, an up-and-coming athlete for 2016.
That was so exhausting. Shall I help if I in? Because you want to exercise.
I thought it went really well today. I've done a judo demonstration and there was a lot of interest by some young boys and girls.
He's came to see the judo and he quite likes it, so I'm taking him the Mora to the judo club.
So here we have Will Bailey, our Paralympic hopeful for London 2012.
Hopefully a few of them will pester their parents enough to take them along to the nearest hockey club and get involved.
When I come out this morning, didn't know what I was going to do and stumbled upon this and had a great time.
You know, where else would you get that you actually played the sport with a Olympian champion? You wouldn't get it anywhere.
It's been great. We've had lots of fun, really.
I think they've done really well to organise this. It's been a really good day.
I think they've done really well. I think all the teams deserve a round of applause for that. That looks absolutely amazing. So, I know you didn't have long, but panel, Gus, can you just confirm you have come to a decision?
We have.
Okay, don't tell me now.
Speed networking, you know,
Great.
we've been good at it. We learnt it last
You've
night.
learnt it now through Civil Service Live. Before you announce who the winner is, I'd be delighted to invite back on stage the winning team from last year's Civil Service Challenge. So please put your hands together for Kerry, Alison and Liz. And they're going to hand over the trophies for this year. Fantastic. So, without further ado, Gus, would you like to announce?
Certainly. I was, as you know, interested by my 4 Ps. So I was looking for passion, and passion about getting the legacy, getting the volunteering out there. The team that I think did it for me, very direct in the way they went to people. So passion, very good. We are looking very much at value for money. One team, the winning team, managed £1.72 spending per pledge that they got in. The other team, £2.92. So the one at £1.72 did very well. And professionalism. I have to say, one team showed an amazing degree of professionalism in blagging. And I think it's therefore very clear to me the winning team is Glasgow.
Want to hand over, Gus? Do you want to go over and shake their hands? Glasgow, come and meet the panel.
Congratulations. Very, very good.
And that just leaves me a lovely task of
Very
saying
impressive.
thank you
Well
very
done.
much to our sponsors Visa for
Thank
this
you.
year's challenge, to our panel here, to Peter, Jill, Johnny and Gus. Big round of applause for them.
Thank you.
To our winning team Glasgow
But you
and
are
our
brilliant.
runners-up here London. And finally to everybody here in the audience, thank you so much. And we hope you've enjoyed this session, but we also hope you've enjoyed the whole of Civil Service Live this year. And we look forward to seeing you back here again next year for Civil Service Live 2011. So thank you very much, everybody.